Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another video. Once again, it is Sovereign Saturday. Sovereign men live by their code. Now, I touched on this a little bit yesterday in a video, but a man's code is his way of living. It's the principles he moves by. It's like when you talk about like bigger organizations, I use the example of the samurai. They had a warrior's code. They had certain things they would do and not do. Every single man needs a code. Now, this code can come from two places. You know, it can come from outside of you. You can follow the code of a school of thought, a philosophy, a warrior's code, a religion. Religions present codes. You can follow that. But then the second place is from within. And that's where it's most important. Because ultimately, as a man, a sovereign man, you got to choose which code you follow. You have to choose it. Like if somebody force a code on you, that's not really, they forcing it. You just going by that just, I don't know, for whatever reason. You just following. No, as a sovereign man, you have to lead. You have to decide your code of conduct. How you going to move. Now, it's all right to pull it from different sources. We all do that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, okay, you study with this teacher in a certain philosophy. There's nothing wrong with that. Or you follow this particular religion or spiritual path. Okay, as long as you decide, because ultimately it's on you. And indeed, you may create your own code. Like I had a code, like I would never mess with a woman who was drunk. I would never, that was part of my code. And that was very important because I never want a woman to say, oh, you know, she was under the influence if we got together. That was part of my code. If she was drunk, I'd just sit there. In fact, I started moving away from her. That's part of my code. Part of my code is moving towards sovereignty. All my life, I always wanted control over my life. So my code was to do things so I could have control, you know? So, you know, but it was my choice. And I'm going to tell you something deep with the code. It has to be the type that other people can see you following a code, even if you don't tell them. Because understand something. You know, when it's easy to say, oh, I do this or that, but how often have we seen a person say, oh, well, I do this or I wouldn't do that, then all of a sudden you catch them doing exactly what they say they wouldn't do. That's some bullshit. That is some bullshit. In fact, you wouldn't even want to deal with that person. Somebody whose code changes with the wind. Now, there's nothing wrong with your code changing, provided it's your choice. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But how often, you know, if you see somebody, they just wishy-washy and all of that, they ain't following a code, they do whatever, you don't want to be around that person. You don't want to be friends with them. You don't want to like, or maintain a friendship with them. You don't want to have them in your business or anything like that. You want to go away from that. You want to go away from that. That's important. That's important, you know? And then, you know, mentioned about changing your code. Now, it could be a part of your code to adjust what you have. Because, you know, stuff might happen. You learn new things, circumstances change, but you don't want to change it like that. If you do change your code has to be the type that you seriously sit back and maybe pray, maybe meditate, maybe think, maybe talk with people before you change something, you know? Before you change something. Not just like, oh, just here and there and everywhere. No, no. Let's not do it like that. Let's not do it like that, just off a whim or something like that. No, once you establish your code, you stick with it. Now, you might change it because of circumstances, you grow, you got stuff to add to it, which is important. In fact, let me get to that. Add it to it. You may add to your code. In fact, you should be adding to it as you get older. You should be adding stuff in it because, you know, you might learn, like I said, you might learn something new. You might join a new religion, a new school of thought or something like that. Yeah, you can add to your code, but even then, you got to think about it. You ain't just doing it just to do it. You got to think, okay, do I want to go with this? You know, can I add this in? Is this a problem? Because the thing is, and you know, you got to have one. Too many men, well, too many males out here are wishy-washy. Too many males can't stand on their word or something. And like I said, do you want to be around that type of person? Because that's a problem. You got too many males who are following. See, a man who lives by code, he's following something greater than himself. And it's going to tell him how to behave in certain situations. You know, part of his code is never to steal. Like, you get a lot of people, okay, like, you ever see, like, people who normally wouldn't steal anything, but then as soon as you give them the opportunity to do so, they will. Like, you know, when you get, like, people looting or stuff like that, I was like, well, hold up. Why are you doing this? You know, you wouldn't do it otherwise. A lot of people maintain stuff because of consequences outside consequences. They're worried about going to jail, the police or something. No, your code is enforced by you, not by outside forces. You're going to walk the path you walk because of your choice, not because of any man-made laws, which change, you know, depending on who's in office. You going to do it. You going to follow who you going to follow. That's the important thing. That's the important thing. See, your code is maintained by you, especially as a sovereign man. You're not a follower as a sovereign man. So you creating your code, however you get it, you still, even when you get it from other people, you ain't really following them. You're like, oh, I like that. Let me use that. You decide though. Anytime you forced to do something or you just doing something because you know, or you pretending like you following something for whatever reason, that's not a code. A true code is when you following your own footsteps. When you doing what you want to do. That's very important. That is very, very important. So that's the thing. And you got to live by this code. You got to live by it. You have to follow it. It got to be, and it got to be deep. You got to be deep, you know? And it got to be something that other people can see. Other people can see it, you know? Like this woman I dealt with, she could tell I lived by a code. She could tell there were certain things I would do, certain things I wouldn't do. I ain't have to tell her. I ain't have to say, well, this is my code. You shouldn't even have to. People can see it because your body language should say it. How you walk, how you look at people and everything. Because remember, body language says a lot. Body language says a lot. You know, your body language should say, nah, this is what I do. This is how I carry myself. This is what I believe in. You know, and I've had a lot of people, you know, they say, well, are you this? Are you that? Because they're trying to read my body language, or they assume. Like when I was younger, a lot of people say, hey, are you Muslim? Are you Muslim? And I say, no, I'm not Muslim. I just carry myself a certain way because of my code. So that's important. That is very important. So as a sovereign man, you want to do that, all right? You want to have a code. Otherwise, you're not really sovereign. Because if you haven't developed your own code or anything, you're just a follower. How are you sovereign if you following? I want y'all to think about that, all right? So anyway, that's all I have for today. I want y'all to think about it. Think about the code. All the men watching this, think about what is your code? What is your code? Think about it right now. And if you don't really have one, develop one. Develop one. However you develop it, hey, as a sovereign man, you decide what you want as a part of your character, but it's your choice. And once you choose it, live by it. And if you have to change something or amend it or something, think about it. Think about it. Just don't do it just to do it. Just don't do it just to do it. Really think about it and really have a good reason, because that's how strong your code has to be. All right? So anyway, that's all I have for today. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.